Okay, I found it. I had to wait until I had an actual 6-minute break to go digging into my own book, and it turns out it wasn't in the hardcover edition. We added it in the paperback edition of Unequal Protection, the second edition, How Corporations Became People and How You Can Fight Back. I start out by telling the story. In March of 1776, 32-year-old Abigail Adams sat at her writing table in her home in Braintree, Mass., a small town a few hours' ride south of Boston. A small group of colonists had gathered in Philadelphia to edit Thomas Jefferson's Declaration of Independence, and one of them was her husband, John Adams. She had a specific concern. With pen in hand, she carefully considered her words. Assuring her husband of her love and concern for his well-being, she then shifted to the topic of the documents being drafted, asking John to be sure to remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than were your ancestors. John Adams replied, "Depend on it that we know better than to repeal our masculine systems." So then Abigail sent him back a letter saying, "If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion." Now, this was before the Declaration of Independence was signed. All of Abigail's efforts were for nothing. Richard Henry Lee of Virginia introduced on June 7, 1776, a resolution that the colonies be free and independent states governed solely by men. John Adams played a strong role in a heated debate over the following month, which concluded with a vote to adopt the gender-specific language of Lee's resolution on July 2nd, 1776. Congress formalized it 2 days later as the Declaration of Independence, which does, in fact, have the word men in it over and over again. And here is where the law was, from the founding of our republic up until the early 20th century, and arguably up until the mid-20th century. A married woman was not, I'm just reading from my own book here, a married woman was not allowed to make out a will because she was not allowed to own land or legally control anything else worthy of willing to another person. Any property a woman brought into a marriage became her husband's at the moment of marriage and would revert to her only if he died and she did not remarry. But even then, she would get only 1/3 of her husband's property. And what third she got and how she could use it would be determined by a male court-appointed executor, not even a relative, who would supervise her for the rest of her life or until she remarried, and would supervise her use of that third of her husband's estate that she inherited. When a widow died, the executor would either take the property for himself or decide to whom it would pass. A woman had no say in the matter because she had no right to sign a will. Women could not sue in a court of law except under the same weak procedures allowed for the mentally ill and children, supervised by men. If the man of a family household died, the executor would decide who would raise the wife's children and in what religion. She had no right to make those decisions and no say in such matters. If the woman was poor, it was a virtual certainty that her children would be taken from her. And it was impossible in the new United States of America for a married woman to have legal responsibility for her children, to have control of her own property, to buy or sell land, or even obtain an ordinary license.